I'm a puppet guy. I love the Muppets. I love anything where you're building.
If there's a hand up in there, you're into it.
I'm into it. Put your whole body up its ass. Let's go.
Hello and welcome back to Staff Picks, the show where we are movie by movie building our dream video rental store. I'm Patrick Willems, joined as always by my co-host Danielle Radford, and today we are once again here with Jourdain and Jordan Olds at Film Noir Cinema, one of the last remaining video rental stores in New York City. And once again, in solidarity with the ongoing WGA and SAG strikes, we will not be discussing any struck films released by the major Hollywood studios. Instead, focusing on international and independently produced movies.
So for today's episode, baby, we're going with them Godzillas. They say he's got to go, go Godzilla!
This is a round that I've been dreading because now you're just making me admit this on camera. Godzilla is a major blind spot for me. I seem like a person who should be really into Godzilla and should have watched all of these movies. I've seen American Godzilla movies and one Japanese Godzilla movie, and so my pick is the original Godzilla from 1954.
The classic.
It is. Upon rewatching it a couple days ago, I was like, oh yeah, this is actually great. All those other movies, it would be tough to measure up to this original because when people talk about Godzilla, the big exciting thing that people always bring up is like, did you know that Godzilla is actually like about like the Japanese processing the horror of the nuclear bombs? Everyone knows that. If you haven't seen Godzilla, you're still aware of like the subtext. It is wild how it's not subtext, it's just text in the movie. They say H-bomb so many times in the movie. It is so explicit. Godzilla is birthed by the nuclear bomb, and then he is defeated via a weapon that itself is a metaphor for the nuclear bomb.
The oxygen destroyer.
The oxygen destroyer, where the scientist is so set on being like, I don't want to let you use this against Godzilla. He's just basically like J. Robert Oppenheimer, who's like, I'm afraid that then you'll use it again. And then when he uses it against Godzilla, he then kills himself to make sure that the knowledge of this thing dies with him and no one will ever use it again. It's not just that it like basically, in a way that Night of the Living Dead did, kind of like create a whole new subgenre of movies, but it is also just like, I think one of the greatest commentaries on nuclear warfare that's ever been put on film. And so, despite having very little to compare it to, I feel pretty good about picking Godzilla.
It's really devastating. And it's also a reaction to like how we react to like the changing landscape of things and like nature's reaction to what we do. Our reaction is like solve the problem, but it makes everything worse. It's crazy that a movie that has a legacy of just like guy in a rubber suit is like one of the most devastating movies ever made.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I love that old school rubber suit thing. Rubber suits and just practical effects, miniatures, and there's a lot of different ways to create this and like bring this to life. And yeah, you look at it now and it looks very silly and like kind of stiff, but that matched with, again, sincerity, like it's incredibly charming.
I don't know what else to say. It's a
banger.
It's a banger. I mean, as they say on the case here, the original Japanese masterpiece. Let's move on to people who know more about Godzilla, which I think is all of you. Danielle, what do you have?
It's very silly. It's right up my alley. It's got creepy twins. I'm going Godzilla versus Mothra. I think it's well established by now that I like things a little on the cheesier and sillier side than a lot of my companions and compatriots. First of all, Mothra, mother, icon. No one's doing it like her. Don't even try. It's true. No one's doing it like mother. Godzilla vs. Mothra is special because it is an expansion on what we already have from the Godzilla universe. This is really when you start to bring in like Infant Island or like the Islands of Monsters, that kind of idea of like there being a place where the monsters are. Mothra's in a giant egg being looked after by tiny creepy twins and
played by an actual musical duo called the Peanuts.
Yep. For me,
It's like if Haim was in like a Godzilla movie and they woke up the bad guy by singing at it.
straight from Licorice Pizza to the next Godzilla.
Hey, I'm doing that little like turn that they do, that little thing, and their
dance move?
behind them is
I am such a big fan of the big monster fights. I also, not surprising anyone here, I'm gonna pick something where it's two big dudes fighting.
Yeah.
This does sound a lot like one of your other interests.
Kind of, maybe a little bit, except this is intergender. And and then of course, obviously later they're gonna team up and they're gonna become buds and stuff. But this does feel like the beginning of like or not the beginning, but this feels like this is, Godzilla expanded universe.
I think this is also memorable because Godzilla is the bad guy, because Mothra is the hero, and it's also sad because original Mothra like dies and then the egg hatches and then there's like little baby larva Mothra. It's crazy.
This is one of those ones where it's like I can't sit here and explain the whole plot to you. There is a lot that is happening.
Also the theme, the like other famous, there's like the march that's in the original 50s one,
Yeah.
but the is from Mothra versus Godzilla. The song itself is called Mothra versus Godzilla.
I feel like we just need a segment on the show called Jordan's Godzilla Corner.
All right, holding this now.
Hi, welcome to Jordan's Godzilla Corner. Did you know that the Godzilla from the original movie is canonically a different Godzilla than the one from all the sequels? But it doesn't really matter, they're both dead now.
And thank you for watching Jordan's Godzilla Corner. It's kind of fun because like so far it's been like, it's like 50s Godzilla, 70s Godzilla, and I'm picking like a crazy one from the 90s, and it's Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. It's not the first time that like Ghidorah is in a movie or anything, and I also am not gonna say that this is like a good movie. When people talk about Godzilla movies, it's not necessarily about the quality of the filmmaking. This is the craziest Godzilla movie I've ever seen. There is time travel. There's also a mecha-king Ghidorah. There are androids that look like French Stewart. What you want in a Godzilla movie is a batshit, low-budget Star Trek movie in the middle of dudes beating each other up wearing costumes. I also think the 90s Godzilla costumes and puppets are genuinely pretty sick for the most part. I'm a puppet guy. I love the Muppets. I love anything where you're building.
If there's a hand up in there, you're into it.
I'm into it. Put your whole body up its ass. Let's go. In the 90s, those Godzilla movies, they get to build skyscrapers because it's like there's skyscrapers in Tokyo now. And so it's the first time you get to see him like moving through a
Buildings
space
like as tall as him.
as tall as him and knocking him over, and it's crazy. Also, this is like primo thick thighs Godzilla. Like this
we love a thick
thighs,
boy.
Goody.
saving lives. I think that this is like the best example of when someone is looking for a Godzilla movie, like give them this shit because it is fucking crazy.
It reminds me the most of like if you played Rampage when you were a kid.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's one of the things I do like about like the verses that I think it's like the Lionsgate ones or that they're doing now, where it's like, oh yeah, we just like live in the Earth's core now, doing science, being
Yeah.
cool.
What do you think they're doing down there? Oh, they're beating each other up? For sure.
Jourdain, what do you have?
I have Shin Godzilla, a Hideki Anno film, which most known for Neon Genesis Evangelion and for being depressed. I mean, that's kind of the same thing. I'm just kind of repeating myself. This is essentially just like, what if we did Godzilla through Hideki Anno's understanding of the world ending, just like through that lens. And there are just like so many scenes of just like the government trying to figure out what to do, people trying to figure out what to do. It's very different and not like as fun, like a little bit more serious. Has anyone else seen it?
I have.
It's been years, but yeah.
Nope. Genuinely, I have thought about watching this so many times because I really like Evangelion, but I'm just like, I feel like to fully appreciate it, I need to see some like classic Godzilla movies, like a baseline for the normal ones, because I know this is like not a normal Godzilla movie.
Yeah. What was your take on it, Jourdain?
When I saw it, can I talk about how I was high? Am I allowed to do that? I was so high when I saw this. Not prepared for how weird they were going to treat like the creature scenes. Like Godzilla in this movie is so unsettling looking.
Yeah.
In most other Godzilla movies, especially like the 90s ones, like he has like the eyes of like an adorable pit bull. His face honestly looks like my own dog. Picture of my dog. Right?
But this is made by a man who ended a show based on like how depressed he was.
Yeah, the scope of it is we're gonna remove the like kind of personal, adorable connection to Godzilla, and his appearance almost looks like he's like rotting from hell, and he's enormous. One of the first shots is just a Tokyo street in between skyscrapers. But instead of seeing like the backdrop of a sunset or whatever, you just see the face of this eye-bulging Godzilla baby that is just like slithering down the street, like scuttling. And it is one of the strangest frames of cinema that I've ever seen. It simultaneously made me feel unprepared for the movie, but also very prepared.
Another giant baby.
Another giant baby. He usually is treated like a big animal, but in this, it's just the scale of everything is so massive, and it's so bleak and intense. The way the destruction feels is truly devastating.
Yeah. That's kind of, which I love that I'm the one to share this one. I'm the goth one. I mean, this is something I would most definitely be watching. But the way that Hideki Anno imagines the end of the world in different ways is kind of incredible.
Yeah, I will say that is also Shin Godzilla is not a movie it does not care about how you feel.
No.
In fact, it likes it if you feel worse.
It
Please feel worse.
wants you to feel bad, and you do.
I think it's time to make our choice. So we have 4 Godzilla movies. I've seen one of them. I will say that as someone who's basically like a novice when it comes to Godzilla, if I were going into a staff picks section to see which Godzilla movie they picked, I would kind of want because the 80s and 90s era of Godzilla is such a mystery to me. I'm just I know they kept making movies, but like after they established the core monsters. And so I like to pick being something from inside the really dense, less talked about era of Godzilla. One that a novice like me wouldn't think to go to.
Yeah.
And so,
I like that idea too.
I do too. Mine is great, but I mean, mine could also be replaced by Over the Top. For all of the reasons why I have presented. For all of the reasons why I presented why I would enjoy it. Not that the movies are interchangeable, but just this is really one of those where they just start throwing stuff up against the wall.
And it all sticks.
Yes.
Right?
And what's great about it is that you don't have to have that greater knowledge, because at the end of the day, it is giant dudes fighting giant dudes.
I would make a big argument for Shin Godzilla, because I think people need to be recommended that movie to kind of give it a shot, because they don't really expect it. It's kind of down to do you want to recommend something that represents the greater experience or the exception?
I do think that Shin Godzilla is really interesting as a reaction to the original movie, and kind of the difference in, not just the director's voice, but, you can almost feel it's a commentary, have things gotten better?
Right.
And according to Hideki Anno, they have not.
It's weird because each Godzilla movie still talks about the devastation from the H-bomb. Each one has Miyazaki ethos in them. It's even a part of this crazy ass 90s one. I think also a key is that when you think Godzilla movie, it's guys in rubber suits, and Shin Godzilla is all CGI, which is an important piece.
That is an important point. My personal leaning is just that I think a classic Godzilla movie, but not the most obvious pick would be cool to have on the staff picks wall?
I can go with that logic. King Ghidorah.
Is that it? Are we
Jourdain.
going? Are we going?
Are you with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Godzilla versus King Ghidorah?
That's what we're doing.
We solved it.
We solved movies forever.
Yeah, you've all been, hanging on there like in suspense this whole time, but we've decided it's going to be Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. 1991, released by Toho. That's gonna be it. It's making it to the wall. And so we have our selection, Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, which brings another episode of Staff Picks to its conclusion. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
And thank you for watching Jordan's Godzilla Corner. And if you're trying to figure out which movie Godzilla jumps up and does a big thumbs up, that's Invasion of Astro Monster.
Hi, welcome back to Jordan's Godzilla Corner. Did you know that there's a Nike commercial where Godzilla and Charles Barkley are playing basketball together? Pull a Space Jam and give me 90 minutes of that shit. Did you know that the original Godzilla roar was created by rubbing a gloved hand against a bass string? To me, that's crazy because anytime I touch a bass string, nothing successful happens. It's usually bad stuff, like a girlfriend breaking up with me. Did you know that Godzilla's original name, Gojira, means gorilla whale? That's right, all the lizard shit was made up by Americans. Americans pushing incorrect bullshit? No way! Hello and welcome back to Jordan's Godzilla Corner. Did you know that Godzilla has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame? That's right, him and John Waters.